tonight, police in the province report 5 sudden deaths believed to be connected to dangerous drugs and a plea deal for a man accused of killing a woman in a St. John's rooming house.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We start with the latest in a St. John's murder trial. David Quirke was accused of second-degree murder for killing Raina Dove in a downtown shelter. Well, today he pleaded guilty to manslaughter instead to avoid what would have been a lengthy trial. Here and Now's Malone Mullen reports.
The accused accepted a last-minute plea deal that'll see his charge downgraded. David Quirke was facing a second-degree murder charge for killing 42-year-old Raina Dove. Instead of fighting that before judge and jury like he originally wanted, he pleaded guilty this morning to manslaughter, which carries no mandatory minimum sentence and a maximum of life in prison. Not much has been said publicly about Dove's death, just that it happened inside a bedsit on Cookstown Road in 2021, that she died at the scene after police arrived, and that Quirke was there and was taken into custody shortly after her death. It was the second violent killing to rock the Rabbittown neighborhood that year, just months after Lorraine Obed fatally stabbed James Corcoran, only a block away. The facts of this case haven't yet been entered into court. That will happen at a sentencing hearing in May. Quirke has been released on conditions until then. Malone Mullen, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, police in the province are warning about a dangerous illicit drug supply. There have been 5 sudden deaths in the last week alone that police believe are connected to drug use. As Here and Now's Heather Gillis reports, harm reduction workers say they aren't surprised.
We've seen it, coming, given the trends across the rest of Canada.
Emily Wadden is with the Safe Works Access program in St. John's. It hands out harm reduction supplies from clean needles to naloxone kits. Police in the province are warning about a dangerous illicit drug supply after 5 sudden deaths in the last week. Wadden says she's not shocked.
If you're somebody who you and your friends, you're using every day, multiple times a day, this is likely not new information in the slightest.
The Royal Newfoundland Constabulary says they don't know what caused the deaths and they're working with the medical examiner to find out. But police do think they're linked to dangerous and potentially fatal drugs. Wadden, meanwhile, expects more overdoses and more deaths will follow.
Some of those drugs are what they are, described as, with no surprises, if you will. And unfortunately, that's not 100% of the supply.
Now, this warning comes days after the RCMP also issued a warning of its own. That police force says there was an overdose death in St. Anthony on Newfoundland's northern peninsula back in December. Police say in that case, they seized a new potent synthetic opioid called nitazene. Now, it was purchased online, sold as morphine. Meanwhile, both police forces in Newfoundland and Labrador are encouraging anyone who uses drugs to get a free naloxone kit, which could reverse the effects of an opioid overdose. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Ottawa and the town of Channel-Port-aux-Basques have reached an agreement to fast-track some much-needed housing for the Southwest. More than $3.3 million in funding has been announced to build 90 housing units. That funding will help create a municipal land trust to free up existing town land and encourage the building of townhouses, duplexes, and other multifamily housing. The agreement is expected to lead to over 390 new homes over the next decade. More than 100 homes were condemned in Port-aux-Basques and the surrounding area following post-tropical storm Fiona. Well, it's more of a slow-mageddon, but it's still a lot of work to clean up. The Avalon Peninsula is dealing with a lot of snow over days of storms, and there could be more snow on the way. Here and Now's Aoife Alaba reports.
It feels like it's never going to stop, and that means there's a lot to clear up.
Last 4 days I've shoveled 12 hours of shoveling, 3 hours each day. And it's pretty tiresome, But we got through it, it's like anything.
Over the last 5 days, we've had more than 60 centimeters of snow. This is the most snow we've had since Snowmageddon. But residents aren't just dealing with the snowfall, they're also dealing with the banks created by the city's snow clearing efforts. This bank over here is more than 6 meters. Big back-to-back snowfalls mean the city is playing catch-up on snow clearing, but help is on the way.
I think what our residents want to see most are the blowers, which will come out and will be able to remove more snow either by way of trucking or by way of putting it on their lawns. It basically shortens up the driveways and it lowers the effort that our residents have to put in to shoveling up their driveways.
Meanwhile, in St. John's, it's hard to walk around with all this snow. Sidewalks are buried. Digging them out is the challenge for city crews.
A lot of our sidewalk snow clearing equipment is not, it's too small. It's a standard size, so it's what everybody has. But with the amount of snow that's on the ground, we have to use the larger equipment. So that is slowing down, I guess, our operations in terms of sidewalk snow clearing.
To get through these days of storms and the piles of snow left behind, officials are asking for one thing.
Patience.
While residents try and exercise that patience, hopefully there's no more snow to test it. Signing off, CBC's Ife Alaba.
Yeah, the snow this weekend definitely didn't help as far as that snow clearing is concerned. Let's take a look at the numbers. So far, Victoria, Conception Bay North recorded another 32 centimeters on Sunday. St. John's East, 22. St. John's at the airport, 19.4 centimeters as you head towards Clarenville and Gander, about 8 or 9 centimeters of snow. So that was thanks to, one area of low pressure. Then another one moved through today, dropped a little bit more snow across the Avalon. In fact, another 9.5 centimeters of snow was recorded in St. John's, which is quite a bit. It was fluffy this time, which was nice because we've got a lot of colder air in play, especially up across Labrador, those temperatures into the minus teens. But how much snow has fallen so far? Well, St. John's East has recorded 85.5 centimeters of snow since Wednesday, and our normal around this time of year is about 71 centimeters. So we do have potentially a little bit more on the way. We'll talk about that when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, it's been nearly a year now since Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec started formal talks about reopening the Churchill Falls Agreement. Now, documents obtained by CBC News and Radio Canada give a glimpse into the negotiations. Patrick Butler reports.
First came the quasi-apology, when last February, Quebec Premier François Legault recognized the lopsided nature of the Churchill Falls contract and the distaste it's generated.
I fully understand the frustration.
That marked the beginning of months of negotiations behind closed doors. Just a few weeks later, officials met for the first time on neutral ground in Halifax. 16 negotiators took part in 2 days of preliminary talks that documents show were intended to help the two teams break the ice. Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro CEO Jennifer Williams subsequently traveled for talks in Montreal and Quebec City on 4 other occasions between May and December. The documents, about 100 pages of receipts and itineraries, reveal only the travel made by Newfoundland and Labrador's negotiating team. Hydro-Quebec refused to comment on trips its negotiators might have made to this province. The current Churchill Falls deal has generated billions of dollars in revenue for Quebec and doesn't expire until 2041. But Quebec's government is on the hunt for new sources of green energy, and Legault says he'll reopen the deal and pay more for Churchill Falls power if Newfoundland and Labrador agrees to increase hydro production on the Churchill River. Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro says negotiations are active but wouldn't provide any further details. Patrick Butler, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, people in the province are still hurting 42 years after the Ocean Ranger disaster. Gonzaga High School held its annual memorial service today, delayed by a few days because of the weather. At the service, family and students reflected on the effect the disaster had on the community.
Never fades, but lingers to eternity.
It comes down to the personal connection that my school has We had 5 Gonzaga students who unfortunately passed away in this tragedy, and so we have a very strong connection to the Ocean Ranger disaster. In a more, I guess, on a community level, this whole disaster had afflicted our whole province, and we saw the loss of 84 men who were working towards the benefit of our community, who were working towards ensuring our community was stronger each and every day. And so the loss of those 84 men resonates within us as a community.
Sunday, February 14th, mid-afternoon. Without warning, in the midst of a tremendous, though by no means unusual storm, the Ocean Ranger developed a severe list, and within a matter of hours, disappeared under the tumultuous seas, taking with it the lives of its 84 crew members.
So last year I was invited to read this part as the first student to do so in the ceremony's history, which is a great honor and privilege to me, truly. And this year I volunteered again to step up and take the speaking role. It was a catastrophe for our province, and it means a lot to everyone here at the Gonzaga community. We've been putting off this ceremony for years since it happened, really, and it means a lot to us in our community, definitely.
The Ocean Ranger initially was touted as being unsinkable. It was the pride of Newfoundland and Labrador, and I think one of the biggest takeaways from this disaster is how we need to continue to move forward to ensure safety.
My heart is as cold as you.
Bannerman Park is going to look very different than this summer when the Newfoundland and Labrador Folk Festival is happening, but there's another big change that's coming this year, and it's causing some controversy.
Alcohol sales, whether we like it or not, we have to rely on that somewhat to help defray the enormous expenses. So let's get off the hamster wheel, try something new.
We'll get into it coming up.
Well, after all that freshly fallen snow, are you wondering when you can get out to enjoy it? Well, I've got 2 words for you: high pressure. We'll talk about that when I come back.
Well, snow clearing crews in St. John's continued the big dig on Friday, working to reopen a road in the Goulds. Just have a look at this. People on Cochrane Pond Road were cut off for 2 days. Groups like Beagle Paws were using snowmobiles to get animals and supplies in and out of the shelter. And it didn't let up over the weekend. In the wake of last week's Valentine's Day storm, volunteers were snowed in for multiple nights.
We had a guy drop off Mary Brown's last night on a skidoo, so it wasn't too bad. I put the ad up on, I put a post up on Facebook, and within no time, someone was here within the hour. Yeah, Cameron Hall from the Goulds, actually. We've been keeping busy. We've been reorganizing all the storage rooms, reorganizing the living room. Anything we can do to clean here. There's nothing else left to clean in the building.
And how about the dogs? How have you kept them occupied over the past 3 days?
They keep us occupied, actually. So. They're usually pretty good though. The only thing is we can't let them out into the yard as much as we'd like to. Like as you can see there, the fence is completely bare. It's up to the top of the fence. So we only have a little area over on that side that's shoveled out, because if not, they're over the fence and they're gone. We can't let them out to play or whatever, and it gets kind of confined downstairs. And with another storm that's set to come either Saturday or Sunday, we won't even have time to clean this up, and that won't be on top of us. So we can get these guys out till Monday or Tuesday. We can get it all cleaned up at that point.
It was definitely a hectic weekend for many people, Ashley, but there is a bright spot to this time of year, right?
Quite literally, yes, especially when that sun does come out and we can enjoy the snow that has fallen. We are getting longer days this time of year. Tonight, sunset at 5:29, or it was at 5:29. In 3 weeks, just 3 weeks from now, we'll be seeing those sunsets just after 7 p.m. there. But really, we're gaining about 10 minutes every week as far as that sunset is concerned. So certainly nice to be able to get out and enjoy it. I know this weekend was beautiful. At least the first half of Sunday, or the first half of Saturday rather, was absolutely beautiful. But Temperatures today feeling very winter-like with those temperatures well below zero. So getting at least the most out of this snow for now. Up across Labrador, definitely seeing those temperatures into the minus teens, minus 14 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Lab City sitting at about minus 17 as your daytime high. We've got a bit of wind as well up across Labrador, gusting anywhere from 50 to 70 kilometers per hour. Twillingate seeing winds gusting upwards of about 48 at the moment. But we should eventually see that wind ease a little bit through tonight, but it's not going anywhere really. We're going to see that ramp right back up as we head into tomorrow. Wind chill value is into the minus teens right now in St. John's. Minus 20 is what it's feeling like in St. Anthony, and then well into the 20s, minus 20s up across most of Labrador. In fact, feeling more like minus 28 in Nain right now with that wind chill. The reason for that area of low pressure still spinning to the north there. And then we had that little one move through today, brought about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. But like I said a little bit earlier, at least it was fluffy this time. But we do have that ending now. That's offshore. Still have some onshore flurries on the go now for the west coast, and we're going to see that continue as we head through tonight. If I just stop the radar there, you can see they are very widespread on the west coast, and the Future Tracker doing a pretty good job picking that up. So we can expect those flurries to work their way through central, and then eventually maybe you're going to have to dust off the car again tomorrow morning across the Avalon. It shouldn't accumulate too much, but that chance is certainly still there. And we've got some flurry activity up across Labrador as well. Temperatures very cold up across the Big Land tonight, especially in Lab West, down to minus 28 with those winds sticking around up across the Big Land anyway. We should see them ease a little bit across the island, but our temperatures still pretty chilly, minus 10 to minus 11 for areas through central northern peninsula, cooler than that. Otherwise, minus single digits for the rest of the island. As we head into tomorrow, it actually is looking like an absolutely beautiful day. At least through the first half of the day, we should see some sunshine. Some onshore flurries, though, will continue for those of you on the west coast, northern peninsula as well. And then some flurry activity up across Labrador for the most part. We should see some clearing into the western portions of the island as the day rolls through. And eventually clearing as we get into Wednesday as a ridge of high pressure will dominate the picture. Your daytime highs tomorrow will sit into the minus single digits, so it's going to stay quite chilly, but also quite windy. Westerly winds or northwesterly winds anywhere from 60 to 70 kilometers per hour up across Labrador. Those temperatures into the, like I said, minus 20s for Lab City, but you will be seeing some sunshine. So that does mean wind chills tomorrow are going to be quite cold. We're talking about minus 20s, minus teens to minus 20s by tomorrow morning, up across Labrador into the minus 30s and even minus 40s. But as we head into the afternoon with those winds ramping back up again, most of us will be seeing those winds, or the wind chills rather, into the minus teens and even minus 20s up across Labrador to the north. Nain, you'll be feeling more like minus 30. So we do have another weather system moving in as we head towards mid to the end of this week rather, which could bring some snow, could bring some rain. We'll talk all about that in the long range forecast.
Well, the Newfoundland and Labrador Folk Festival has been a concert mainstay here in Bannerman Park for the past 47 years. But this year, some major changes are coming, and it's causing a bit of blowback with some concert goers. Joining me now is Executive Director Julia Vogt. So, first of all, tell us what these changes are.
There are a lot of them. Where do I begin? We knew two things after last year. After last year, when the festival itself lost $176,000, $99,000 after sponsorships, we can't sustain it for as much as we all love it, and we do. We can't keep going like this with the prices of what we have to do in this park going up, skyrocketing. We had to make some changes to stay alive.
It's a lot of money. What was the cause of that much of a loss?
It was a dual effect, increased expenses that we just absorbed because ticket prices remain the same. We knew people were hurting. But the main reason is lack of attendance. We only had at the most 1,358 people in a park that will hold 4,000. There was so much green space in here. We can't sustain this. We just can't.
So how do you make more money?
We have bigger acts. So back in 2000, they did a study, and that study showed that in order to get more people to the park, you have to bring in bigger acts that people know and want to come and see.
There's another change that's happening in terms of the 19 plus. Explain how that's going to work this year.
That is going to work. Normally, we are standing in the beer garden area, which was over here, and the sound was awful. You really couldn't see anything because everybody was fenced in over here. And the alcohol sales, whether we like it or not, and Bob Hallett pointed this out on CBC Weekend Show, that we have to rely on that somewhat to help defray the enormous expenses. If we didn't have that, I don't know where we would be. So we looked at surveys, we looked at feedback, and the feedback number one was the programming. And so we flipped the way we did that, and one of them, and I'm going to give you a scoop at the end of this, is to release another name. And number two was the beer garden problem. So let's get off the hamster wheel, try something new. We don't make the liquor regulations, as everyone knows. So the over 19 area, or under 19 area is going to be over, can you see that section? And there's a nice grassy section for the kids to dance over there. The view is good. We checked out all of this. I think we came to the park 3 or 4 times to check views and things. And then this entire area is going to be licensed to that pathway over there.
So is it the parents of kids who are having a negative reaction to this news because they feel like they can't take their kids to the show anymore?
It is there for sure. It's musicians who remember back in the day when we didn't even have a stage. It was just a lower stage where the kids could actually come right up. They can't even do that anymore anyway, due to safety regulations. We have those metal things, and that's where we're going to have big screens this year on either side, so that even if you're way back by Military Road, you'll be able to see Emmylou. But over there is where the kids are going to be instead of right in front of the stage. And I think, nostalgia is a wonderful thing, but if you look at it and stare too long, that's when you're not looking at the macro view. And the bottom line of it is the attendance has been falling. I think there's a solution out there.
And what is that solution?
That maybe we could be a beta test site like other festivals and other communities who have very stringent liquor laws. Understandably, nobody wants, brouhaha to happen with children around. Nobody wants that. But in Edmonton, let's take, for example, they did a beta test where they did the wristband system, the non-tamperable wristbands. Yellow, you can. No wristband, you can't. Families are milling about. Children are roaming freely throughout the entire park. Everyone's happy. Families sitting together and drinking responsibly if they choose or not.
All right, so tell us, what is this scoop? Who's coming?
Here's the scoop. So the direct support for the Ennis sisters on Sunday night is De Temps en Temps, who is an amazing rockin' band, and I can't wait to hear them. I'm so looking forward to this whole thing. So I do hope we can speak civilly and keep discussing as the details emerge. And if you want to have your voice heard, please become a member and come to our annual general meeting on April 23rd. We have a whole presentation ready.
All right, Julie Vo, thank you so much for this. Really appreciate it.
You're so welcome anytime.
We're welcoming audiences from the Maritimes on this Family Day holiday, plus more local news and weather just ahead.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. We want to welcome the rest of Atlantic Canada, who's joining us for our remaining half hour because of the Family Day holiday in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI. So thanks for tuning in. Well, we begin the news tonight with a person who has died in a workplace fatality at the Irving shipyard in Halifax. A spokesperson for the shipyard confirmed the death late this afternoon. Monica McLean with the Provincial Labour Department says the department is investigating the death and supporting the victim's family at this time. There are no further details about that incident. Well, police in Newfoundland and Labrador are investigating 5 sudden deaths in the last week, deaths believed to be the result of drug overdoses. Prince Edward Island is also seeing a spike in drug use. 7 overdoses were reported in Charlottetown within a 24-hour period earlier this month. Advocates there say naloxone or Narcan kits are having to be administered multiple times in a single instance.
We're starting to see a lot of poison drug supplies on the streets, not only in Summerside, but island-wide. So it's reached the point now that it is responsible for everybody, whether or not they suffer with addiction issues or not. It is a responsible choice for everybody to not only be trained on Narcan, but to also carry Narcan. We have no intentions on ever stopping to carry Narcan. It is part of all of our supplies that all of our volunteers carry, because all of us are firm believers in the importance of carrying Narcan.
You know, drugs are getting so strong that some people have to take, 2 doses of Narcan to come back from an overdose.
I fully believe that information because I've personally had to administer Narcan on multiple occasions, sadly, and I've never had it require less than 3 doses. So that speaks in itself that the drug supply is getting stronger. It's also becoming a lot more tainted.
For the second time this year, a fire has broken out at a tent encampment in St. John, New Brunswick. No one was injured in yesterday's fire. Crews were called to the scene near Exmouth Street just after 7:30 yesterday evening. A dozen firefighters arrived to find the tent in flames, and there was concern about the fire spreading to other shelters. Early last month, a 44-year-old man died as a result of a fire in another tent encampment in St. John. Well, the head of St. John's Pride says he's not surprised by the findings of a new Canadian intelligence report. The CSIS document says Canada's 2S LGBTQ+ community is at risk of extreme violence. The spy agencies looked at the likelihood of a terrorist attack in this country. It says violent rhetoric from extremists could spill over into real violence. There has been anti-2S LGBTQ+ legislation and demonstrations in several provinces, including New Brunswick and here in Newfoundland and Labrador. The head of St. John's Pride says people in the community no longer feel safe.
We keep getting this reaction from the people that are supposed to make sure that our communities feel safe and that we feel safe within our communities, where they're saying, well, we'll monitor it. We understand that you don't feel safe, and we don't, and we know that we can see that these threats are there, and now we have the CSIS report. And what we're really hoping for is that governments, provincial, municipal, federal governments, as well as enforcement agencies that are tasked with making sure that people feel safe, try to find ways to address that instead of just putting your hands up to say, well, there's nothing that we can do right now within the confines of the law. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think it's appropriate for me, as somebody who doesn't study law and study public safety, to kind of come up with those solutions. But the fact of the matter is we have governments, now we have the Canadian Secret Intelligence Service, we have enforcement agencies all agreeing that there is a heightened level of threat for our particular community. And it's really time for them to start coming forward and saying, and this is how we're going to address it, because we all have a right to feel safe inside of our communities.
More than 100 people gathered in Halifax yesterday to remember missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. These red dresses will hang in the public gardens for the next 2 weeks. It was the 4th annual march from Peace and Friendship Park to the gardens. The event included a speech from a woman whose niece, Cassidy Bernard, was killed by a former partner in her Cape Breton home.
It's horrible how they die. Some of them died in police custody, some of them died at home. Cassidy died with her twins by her side. She didn't have to die. She was murdered, plain and simple. Mona Denny is her mom, but my sister is raising the girls, Paisley and Maya.
Massive snowbanks are making it difficult for drivers to navigate around Cape Breton. It's also brought another challenge, sharing the road with wildlife. The CBC's Erin Potty explains.
People online are sharing pictures and videos of animals walking in the middle of plowed roads. Like humans, they're finding it difficult to navigate after record-breaking snowfall last week. Lyle Donovan is EMO coordinator for Victoria County.
We don't want to hurt the wildlife, but first and foremost, we don't want anybody to get hurt or injured or damage any vehicles or anything like that. So
Donovan encountered a mother moose and possibly her baby last week. He says the pair were exhausted, and it's not just large animals making their way onto roadways.
Coyotes, I've seen encountered myself.
Snowbanks are making it difficult for animals to cross into the woods and for drivers to see around those snowbanks. Department of Natural Resources in Cape Breton says drivers should take caution and be aware that deer and moose are most active at dusk and dawn.
And even simple things as making sure that your vehicle is winter ready, that it has good quality tires that are properly inflated can actually help with your ability to stop properly.
Natural Resources says to also note that deer often travel in herds and to remember that moose will sometimes chase vehicles. Walsh says it's important for drivers to maintain a safe distance. Erin Potty, CBC News, Sydney.
Staying with wildlife, a 7-meter-long basking shark has washed ashore on Grand Manan Island. Experts say this breed of shark isn't uncommon in the Bay of Fundy, but it is unusual for them to be in the area during the winter. Anyone who discovers a beached shark is advised to report it to DFO. In the meantime, those who first discovered the shark say they didn't realize what it was.
We approached it thinking it was just a rock because we're both from Fredericton, and we just thought it was something that may have been on the beach forever. And then as we got closer, we started seeing the fins, the tail fin especially.
Yeah, from far away, it looked like a rock. It's that big. It looks like a boulder on the beach. Didn't look like a shark from 20 feet away.
Well, to Corner Brook now, Marble Mountain held a special memorial over the weekend to honor a dedicated skier and instructor at the West Coast Hill. Andrew Jesso died in 2022, and on Sunday, the official opening of a run named in his honor was held. Jesso's ski school colleagues, family and friends gathered at the top of Drew's Drop, skiing down with the banners bearing the hashtag #4Drew. Jesso was killed in a car crash a few weeks shy of his 20th birthday. A foundation has been created in his name to help raise funds to bring more young people to Marble Mountain who may not otherwise be able to afford the fees. We'll be right back.
CBC is highlighting Black changemakers from Atlantic Canada who are making a difference, inspiring others and shaping the future. This year, we are asking you to help us identify Black changemakers who are bringing positive change to your community. So, nominate someone today.
I'm from Sydney, Nova Scotia, and I'm a Black changemaker.
I'm a Black changemaker.
And I'm a Black changemaker.
A beloved ice maker on Prince Edward Island was celebrated this weekend during his last winter season before retirement. For 26 years, Billy Keogh has been taking care of the ice at Credit Union Place. The rink's president says he's meticulous when it comes to making sure the ice is smooth, and his dedication hasn't gone unnoticed. This weekend, the arena workers threw him an 80th birthday celebration, which means a lot to the longtime caretaker.
What really made my day, I was shoveling snow off, Zamboni. Little kids, girls and boys that come over, they're running on the ice. They all skated over and they sang happy birthday to me. And one of the little girls said, "Now you're 80 years old." There, that was, yeah.
Well, let's head to New Brunswick now. How is this for a multi-hyphenate? Emily Johnson works full-time for her family's construction company. She's also an artist and a doula in St. Mary's First Nation. Now, the 24-year-old is a published children's book author and illustrator. Her new book follows along with a cat named Mitzi as she learns about the traditional practice of picking sweetgrass.
This is Mitzi. Today is Mitzi's very first time going sweetgrass picking, but she doesn't know it yet. As Mitzi enters the field of tall grass, she smells vanilla and chestnut in the breeze. It makes her nose wiggle with excitement. I wanted to write about something I really knew a lot about, and I've always loved sweetgrass picking. I try and go every year, and I just thought, well, my cat loves going outside, and I like going sweetgrass picking. I'm like, what if I just do a story on her going sweetgrass picking? People love cats, and I love my cat, kind of thing. This is sweetgrass, claims Mom, holding up a long green blade. Mitzi moves closer and sniffs it and smells the same sweet scent as before. I feel like it's an easier way for kids to feel connected. When you read to a kid, you're stimulating their mind and reading them knowledge, but it's still fun to look at and fun to do once they actually go outside. I feel like they'll have more of an understanding and feel more connected to themselves and to everything around them. I decided to do the Wabanaki Visual Arts program because what did I have to lose? And it really opened up the way I look at the world, from an artist's point of view. I'll be out and about looking at a tree, and the way the sun hits it just makes me happy, so I'll take a picture of it. I really hope it ends up in our Aboriginal schools. Where I went to elementary school, Chief Harold, that's where my younger siblings go. I hope it ends up there. I hope it ends up at my home reserve in Listigouche. They have elementary school, middle school of the AGS. I hope to read there if they want me. But
Does Mitzi know that she stinks?
No. I keep showing her the book and whatnot, but she doesn't get it.
The Canadian military has a staffing shortage. It expects to need nearly 8,000 more members as soon as next month. In an effort to bolster the ranks, the Canadian Forces has opened its doors to permanent residents. But as the CBC's Ashley Burke tells us, only a tiny fraction of those who have applied are being accepted.
Jamal Ludin wants to serve the country that took him in. He's from Afghanistan and escaped aboard an American military plane after Kabul fell to the Taliban. Eventually, he came to Canada, where he's now a permanent resident.
I want to be a part of this society because they helped me in my very bad situations.
The military has made no secret it's desperate for new recruits.
Given the significant number of demands around the world, and there's just not enough Canadian forces to be able to do everything.
Sign in the box.
And so in 2022, the military opened its doors to permanent residents to help fill thousands of vacant jobs. But CBC News has learned while more than 21,000 permanent residents applied to join the regular forces, within a year, only 77 were accepted.
I frankly think it's not good enough, and it's potentially an opportunity lost.
The process takes time. The commander overseeing recruitment says permanent residents often require an extra level of security screening.
Certainly it's frustrating, and we feel those frustrations. We have to be a combat capable force, and so standards matter, and when when you're dealing with sensitive military equipment in a national security environment, those factors are really important.
The military says it can take up to 2 years to process permanent residents, but just 3 months for Canadian citizens.
It makes that check, sort of background check, much easier than somebody that comes in with 20 years in a different country.
Faced with those long delays, 15,000 permanent residents have walked away. Ludin is hanging on, for now doing odd jobs to support his sisters here in Canada, thinking of his mother and brother who died in Afghanistan and how he wants to make them proud.
My family always want to see me in my uniform.
The defense minister has asked the department to look at allowing permanent residents to serve on a probationary basis while they wait for their security checks to be completed. The department says the military is considering it. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Supreme Court of Canada has welcomed its newest justice. Mary T. Moreau took her seat on the bench this afternoon. Moreau spent decades serving in the Alberta court system and headed to the province's Court of King's Bench from 2017 to 2023. With her arrival, 5 of the 9 justices are now women. It's the first time women have been in the majority on the court. The widow of Alexei Navalny is promising to keep up the fight against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Yulia Navalnaya met today with European Union officials in Brussels. Navalnaya was welcomed to the meeting by the European Council leaders. The EU says it's considering additional sanctions against Russia. Alexei Navalny was Putin's chief rival until the activist's death last week. His widow has suggested he was poisoned with a nerve agent. Meanwhile, Navalny's mother is still searching for her son's body. A lawyer and a journalist accompanied her to northern Russia. She says her attempts to see her son's remains have been rebuffed by the local morgue. The Kremlin said today the investigation into Navalny's death is ongoing, but there are no results yet.
Well, the weather for Atlantic Canada over the next couple of days can be quiet thanks to a ridge of high pressure. But we've got another area of low pressure moving in that will bring some weather. We'll talk about that coming up.
The joys of swimming outdoors in Newfoundland and Labrador all year long. Watch Outdoor Dipping, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
All right, so time for a look at the weather. And as we mentioned earlier, we're doing things a little bit differently because it's the Family Day holiday in Atlantic Canada today. And so our second half of our newscast is being broadcast in all of Atlantic Canada, along with here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So Ashley, you're looking at the weather for everyone. How is this Family Day holiday for most folks?
Yeah, a little bigger picture tonight. It looks pretty decent. I mean, we are seeing some areas of onshore flurries in some cases, but overall temperatures pretty nice. Let's take a look at where we sat today. Eastern Canada seeing temperatures into the minus single digits. Up across Labrador, a little cooler than that. But for the most part, this is right around where you should be sitting for this time of year. The good thing is that generally sitting under a ridge of high pressure that is keeping the weather quiet, but other than those onshore flurries, for those of you in most of the maritime provinces anyway, but we're seeing those onshore flurries as well for parts of the west coast of the island. But yes, cooler air for sure. And as we head through the night tonight, those temperatures are going to be quite chilly. But other than that, those winds will continue across portions of the island and as well as the maritime provinces as well, especially in that onshore flow with those colder temperatures. We're talking about temperatures dipping into the teens tonight, minus teens tonight. But overall, that ridge of high pressure will take hold for tomorrow, which will keep things quiet with lots of sunshine in the forecast as well. And our temperatures are going to stay quite chilly through the day for some areas. Now, as far as we get into the evening hours, that ridge of high pressure definitely going to take hold, which will clear things out. So temperatures for your Tuesday across New Brunswick sitting into the minus single digits. That's the story across PEI and Nova Scotia, with the exception of those flurries again towards the east. Sydney will see that with temperatures around -5. Now across most of Newfoundland, we're looking at those temperatures into the minus single digits as well. And then for Labrador into the minus teens through tomorrow. Now, as we look ahead to Wednesday, that ridge of high pressure definitely dominating the weather picture through the afternoon. And that is going to keep those temperatures below zero, but lots of sunshine on the horizon. And as you head towards the west, though, western portions of Nova Scotia and even into New Brunswick. Those temperatures will be hovering around the 0-degree mark through your Wednesday. And then as we look ahead to our next weather maker, yes, that ridge of high pressure will dominate it, but we need to take a look at this area of low pressure, which looks to skirt Nova Scotia, potentially bringing some some snowy conditions, I should say, starting in the afternoon hours on Thursday. Now, as far as Newfoundland is concerned, we'll likely see this start as snow, and then we could potentially see this transition through to some freezing rain, some models even pointing at some rain altogether for the Avalon. So definitely going to have to keep an eye on this system. It looks like the western half of the island should stay into the snow portion of this and will likely continue as we head into Friday. And we'll see that for eastern areas of Nova Scotia as well, which could bring some snow. And then again, as we head into Saturday, another round moving in, more of a messy mix for New Brunswick, but most of really potentially the island and eastern portions of New Brunswick will sit, of Nova Scotia will sit in that rain. So definitely lots of weather, but as we have been heading through the last couple of days here in the Avalon, looking at some nice weather. Definitely, this is snowshoeing in Pippi Park. Pauline shared this photo with us, and if you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, you can send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
That is just gorgeous. Thank you so much for that, Pauline. Another winter wonderland type of scene. I wonder if the rain that might be coming here for the Avalon might take a bite out of some of the snow that's down.
It might, but there's a lot out there.
Yeah, there is.
72, as much as 100 centimeters has fallen since Wednesday, so.
All right.
It's going to take a lot to get rid of that.
It will. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. We hope everyone in Atlantic Canada enjoyed your Family Day holiday today. Your regular local newscasts will be back to normal tomorrow. But thanks so much for joining us here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Have a great night.
Good night.